So I was kind of surprised to see Google so far behind in the AI race. When you think about their history, all the data they have, and all the things that they are ready to do, it makes no sense that they fell as far behind as they did. The whole reason Google search won was because they wrote the right algorithms and collected the right data to make search fit better what we expected it to do. As of today, they no longer feel anywhere near as behind because Gemini 2.0 it's very legit. It's way more legit than I expected, and for reasons you probably didn't expect either. It's probably my favorite response to the DeepSeek chaos thus far, and I like it so much that I just enabled it for free in T3 Chat. Yes, really. You go to T3 Chat, 2.0 Flash is now free, and their Flash Lite, which is even faster. It's hilarious how fast it is. Sending now. That's stupid. This is real time. It's done. There has to be a catch though, right? Like it has to be really expensive or really dumb or something. I don't know if there's a catch here, and we're gonna have a lot to dig into in order to figure out if it does. Before we can dig in, quick word from today's sponsor, because somebody has to pay these AI bills for me. If you watch my channel, you've probably seen how great the developer experience is on platforms like Vercel. But if you're not a JavaScript dev, you probably never got to experience it yourself. Today's sponsor, Savala, is here to give that type of experience to everyone, and arguably a better one. Savala lets you deploy pretty much anything. They know PHP super well. They're actually part of the company Kinsta, which is a big WordPress host, but they know a lot more than that. I'm not even good at PHP, and I was able to deploy a Laravel app for real in like 5 clicks. And I spent a lot of time figuring out how to do that on my own in the past. And if they were just doing the image like you see here, that'd be cool and fine, one thing, but they do a lot more. They'll actually set up Cloudflare in front for you and show you all the stuff they're doing. So if you have some static assets like pictures or static pages, you don't have to wait for the PHP server to spin up and resolve those. You can put them on Cloudflare instead, and it's all configurable within Savala. Even things like your database. When not building serverless, I really miss preview builds. When someone files a pull request, there's a build up with a URL that I can go check to see how it works. Setting that up here is hilariously easy. We can go to the pipeline and we see this PR I put up, please sub, that I can create a preview app for. I just click the button, instantly spins up. You can even set it up to happen automatically. And then when the PR is approved and you merge it to main, you can have an automatic production deployment go out to. If you're looking for a place to host your servers that is a lot more modern and gets what we actually need nowadays as devs, Savala is one of the best places to take a look at. Sign up today for $50 of free credit. Check them out now at soydev.link/Savala. We will start with my favorite site, artificialanalysis.ai. I've been spending way too much time on this site. And it is of note, they have not updated it with the official Flash deployment. They're still using the experimental one. And one of the weird things Google does for their experimental models is they don't charge for them. They heavily rate limit them, but you get access to them for free. As far as I know, the 2.0 Flash model is probably the exact same as the experimental one, if not the exact same. The difference is they now charge for it, which means they can have way higher rate limits, but it also means we know how much it costs now, where previously, if you were to use these experimental models, you would almost certainly hit rate limits if you were doing real traffic. And more importantly, when they actually came out, you have no idea what your bill is going to end up being. Are they going to price it closer to something like 4.0 mini, where it's 15 cents per million input tokens? Or are they going to price it closer to 0.1, where it's like $15 per 100 input or 1,000 million whatever input tokens? I have been going out of my way to keep track of all these numbers because they're hard to track. And as good of a job as artificial analysis does, they don't just output them. 4.0, which is kind of like the bog standard model, $2.50 per million in, $10 per million out. Not great, but fine. 4.0 mini, comically cheaper, 15 cents per million in, under a tenth the cost. 60 cents per million out, way under a tenth the cost. 0.1, hilariously expensive. Like literally 100 times more costly than 4.0 mini, but it makes sense when you understand how much more compute it costs to run those models. Then we have my biggest annoyance, the thing that almost caused me to go bankrupt, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is $3 per million in, $15 per million out. But then DeepSeek came in and shook everything up. 27 cents per mil in, $1.10 per mil out for the standard model. The old version, which is still the pricing they're charging for it, is cheaper than 4.0 mini, which is hilarious. But then there was R1, which is 55 cents per mil in, $2.20 for mil out. Insanely cheap, especially when you consider the quality you get with R1. In most of the evaluations, it's as good, if not better, than the reasoning models from OpenAI. In the coding human eval, which is a test of solving hard code problems, R1 beat out O1. It's very close, but it did win. It's a really, really good model. And for that price, it's insane. If you go down to the quality versus price section here, you'll notice O1's really far off in that corner. I'm going to turn off O1 because it just breaks all the diagrams. And you'll see something interesting here. R1, O3 Mini, and V3 are all much more reasonable on the price to quality analysis here. Claude's very expensive for how low of quality it is compared to some of these new models. And 4.0 Mini is surprisingly cheap, but also surprisingly not great. You'll notice that Gemini isn't on here, and the reason is, at the time of filming, the site has been updated with the new Gemini Flash model and the new pricing. So how expensive is it going to be? The quality is there. It's getting very close to these other models. It's getting really close to the reasoning models, outperforming Claude in a lot of places. It's close in code, but it's outperforming in almost every other spot. Am I going to bankrupt myself by offering this for free? 10 cents per mil in? 40 per mil out? Is this the light model? No, there's a light model. 7 cents per mil in, 30 cents per mil out. We have a new cheapest model. Flash Lite is insane. Both of these are cheaper than 4.0 Mini. Both of these are hilariously cheaper than DeepSeek. And the Lite one is so insanely cheap, it's almost free. It's actually insane. One other important thing to note is context windows. Context windows is how much data can you pass it while it can still respond. If you hand an AI model too much data, it will choke and die. This is a different chart. This chart is based on the size of the context windows, and here's the actual sizes of them. I'm going to remove the Google models because they're skewing this so hilariously. Most models tend to have 128K token context. That is, it can handle approximately 128,000 words being passed to it and still generate a response. That's a lot of words. That's a lot of tokens. I've seen plenty of very large code bases that can comfortably fit under the 128K that most of these models have as their token max. Claude, both Sonnet and Haiku, are actually quite a bit higher at the 200K mark. And OpenAI clearly took that as a challenge and matched it with O1 and O3 Mini. Context size is now so big, it barely feels like a problem anymore. Google hit 2 mil on Gemini 1.5, and they're maintaining 1 mil on 2.0. A million tokens. Most code bases can fit under that context window. That means you can hand Gemini your whole code base, ask it to find something, and it will. Mind you, you're priced per token on input and output. So if you hand it a code base with 1 million tokens, oh, I forgot. It only costs 10 fucking cents. Who cares? And this is what's so unbelievable. If you wanted to do that type of analysis on other models, like even cheap ones like 4.0 Mini, sure, it's only 15 cents for a mil in, but now you have to deal with turning that million tokens into something that it can parse. You have to build your own layer, something like an RAG, so that it can find how to get the data and actually grab that data and apply it in things. 1 million tokens means you don't have to care. That's insane. Apparently the Pro version that's coming out soon, it's still in early access. Pro is going to have a 2 mil token range again, and it's going to almost certainly do really well in these benchmarks too. I am so excited to see those models drop. I can't believe I'm excited about a Google product that isn't YouTube right now. I certainly can't believe I'm this excited about a new model from Google. You can't fake these numbers, and the numbers look really, really good for Google right now. They are overall at a quality bar similar to Anthropic's at a price comically lower. The fact that Flash meets or beats Claude, despite costing almost a 40th as much for the output tokens. That's crazy. A 30x plus cost savings to move to a model that in some ways is better. I think the worry about DeepSeek is kind of gone now because Google now has the cheapest quality model, and it's not even close. I'm probably going to make this the default model on T3 chat if the rate limits aren't a problem, because what the fuck? That's so crazy. And if this was all they were doing, I would be blown away, but it isn't. Here I am in the official AI studio because I couldn't get the thinking data out from the APIs yet. I'm not sure if you can or not. I haven't looked into it too far, but I want you guys to see that they do actually have a thinking model. See this? Gemini 2.0, Flash Thinking Experimental. You'll see the costs are 0, and you also see the rate limit's pretty aggressive, 10 per minute. That's not something we can add to T3 chat yet because we don't know how much it's going to cost yet, and it's going to get hit real hard if the hundreds of thousands of people on T3 chat are using it. So we can't add it yet, but I still want to show you guys how good it is. Obviously, the chat interface here is not going to be the best one because that's not their focus. Their focus is much more so the models. We can test it. We'll do my favorite. Solve Advent of Code 2021, day 5 in Python. And there it is, thinking. And it is not thinking slowly. One of the problems I've had with the reasoning models is a lot of the hosts aren't fast And often the official hosts are just down. Like even if you do have good performance with DeepSeek and you're happy with the results you're getting and the price, their API has been down for 8 fucking days. Jesus Christ, it looks like it might be back, so we might finally get to add it back to T3 chat from the official provider. So having a fast thinking reasoning model that can spit out actual usable results is huge, huge, huge. The fact that it could solve that in 8 seconds, including the reasoning, that makes it better than O3 Mini in a lot of ways, and for so much cheaper. I have to just assume they're doing some loss leading here or something, because this is just hard to fathom. And again, we're not even at the end of what it does. We've just been talking about like autocomplete and text input output. It doesn't just take text. We're looking at the Lite model here. Lite can take text, images, video, and audio as well. And standard Flash can go further. They price a bit more for audio because they're doing a bit heavier stuff with it. But they also have the ability for it to do search for you. You can set up the model to do search. You don't have to roll that yourself. With almost every other model, you have to add search with tooling yourself. There's a concept in most of these AI providers now called tools, where you describe to the AI that it can do certain things. You give it an interface, you go build your own actual thing that connects to websites or whatever and say, hey, you can go browse Google and find results by calling these 3 things. And then the AI is now smart enough to hit those things, do it, and then use the results to generate text for you. Usually you have to set that up yourself using some platforms like BrowserBase. BrowserBase is great. They've sponsored a bunch of videos. They built really good tooling for remote serverless browsers that are fully headless. So it's a way to let your AI workers or whatever browse the web. Cool. So if you want to build your own search for Claude or for OpenAI stuff, you can do that by describing the tools that you build around BrowserBase for it to go do and find those things. Google just has it built in. And it makes sense when you think about it, because Google is the world's leading search company. Why would they not have search in their model? This is actually the main reason I started looking into Gemini more closely, because I didn't want to put all the time in building the tool systems in order to handle search ourselves. And a lot of people want search in T3 chat. I can just turn it on as a feature flag effectively for the Google models. I'm shipping Gemini models. I'm paying attention to what Sundar's saying on Twitter. I'm hitting the follow button because I need to keep up with this because it's now part of my business. And the Flash Lite drop, I did not expect that at all. Putting out something new like that that's even cheaper. Good day to be a cheap $8 a month AI chat app, isn't it? LMs were the perfect excuse to resurrect Ask Jeeves. Not just Jeeves. Do you guys not remember the Akinator? The original AI. He would figure out what person you were thinking of, or I guess what thing you were thinking of, by asking you 20 questions to reduce down to whatever it could possibly be. I remember being obsessed with this as a kid. Now we're in a whole new world. Seems like a big part of how this got so cheap might be their new compute. I know Google's been working really hard on their own processors, originally both for quantum stuff, but also to make phones suck less. I could go on a long rant about Qualcomm here. I will spare all of you that. Just know that they are making life harder for a lot of companies. Makes sense that they wanted to build their own chips, same way Apple did. But they're focused on really high compute ones for their crazy tensor workflows and AI shit. And my guess is these have gotten good enough that it lets them do this stuff both way faster and way cheaper. 3 times faster inference throughput than their previous generation. 4x improvement in training performance. 67% more efficient with energy, so they're paying a lot less money. It makes sense. This is why competing with Google right now is really hard, because Google has all the data they need to train the models. They have all the engineers and research teams to design and train those models as well. And they have the crazy compute that they're building themselves to do all of this better. A company like Grok, who we love, by the way. Grok's been awesome to work with. We're using them for all of our super fast models, like the distilled R1 as well as the Llama model. Grok's stupid fast. It's like we had to change how scrolling works in T3 chat because Grok is so stupid fast. So I have Llama selected here. Solve Advent of Code 2021, day 8, or we'll just give it an easier one, day 5 in Rust, Python, JS or Java, script, and C++. We're giving it a bunch because you guys need to see how fast Grok, like what? It's like you can't even keep up, it's so fast. And to be clear, it's Grok with a Q, not with a K. Grok with a K isn't competing with anything other than Elon's wallet. Grok with a Q is a company building really fast chips for doing inference, not for training models, but for generating responses from models. Their chip is architected in a way where it only really works well with Llama right now. Almost all the models that they offer are Llama based. You'll see as we scroll here, lots of Llama models. Meekstral apparently works okay with it. OpenAI's Whisper works well too, which is their like audio model, but they are comically faster than other places because the chips are so optimized for the way that these models in particular work, which is why you get crazy numbers where like the official 4.0 on the OpenAI API gets 70 tokens per second. There are multiple models here that break 3,000 TPS, but it has its limitations. Input sizes are a lot lower. Most of these can only take like 32K context. Some of them are even less. And when you give them more context, the speeds start to chug. And the pricing is really good for the models that are this fast, but the slower ones with higher token counts and higher context windows tend to be more traditionally priced. There's a lot of reasons for that. And the biggest one is they don't have much control over the models themselves. They kind of have to take what others have produced and then give it to us for a price and hope it runs well on the chips that they designed. Google doesn't have that problem because they own all the parts. They own all the data, they own all the model development, and they own all of the CPUs and architecture to make it run. And that synchronization is why my iPhone is as good of a product as it is. Because my iPhone's hardware, chipset, software, and everything else was designed by Apple. And that type of unification lets you move faster and eke out wins that no one else can. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but it's starting to look like Google is the Apple of AI, where they have everything they need to pull this all together and the world's worst dashboards for trying to interface with it. I cannot properly express how miserable an experience Google Cloud Products, Vertex Studio, whatever shit was. The new AI Studio is actually pretty nice and nice to work through. Google has a real chance at winning here, though. And I genuinely hope we can see that happen. I want to see more competition on pricing, on DX, on quality, and on capabilities of these models. And it seems like Google right now is the only company fighting on all those fronts. They just need to sunset Vertex like ASAP. Got some fair concerns here from chat, which is until Google's SDKs become less of a pain to use, I can see devs picking the 5x cost option for pure convenience. I agree, except for the fact that you don't have to touch the Google stuff once you get an API key out of them. I will admit, getting an API key out of them, comically difficult. I don't think you can actually get a traditional API key out of Vertex at all, but the new AI Studio stuff isn't that bad. Once you get your API key from Studio, if you're able, it's not that hard to set up. If you're using a wrapper like AI SDK from Vercel or the Open Router project, both of which are phenomenal, by the way, it's very easy to connect once you have a key. The AI SDK makes it so easy to add lots of different providers. Here's our actual file with all of the models in production. We import the AI SDK providers for all the things that we are currently using, and then we define them by calling it with the model that we want to use. And as long as our environment variables are set correctly, no, I will not open that file right now. It should just work. And adding these two models is as simple as adding these here and then putting them in the config so it showed in the UI. There is no special sauce in our code base right now for Google. There was when I tried setting up Vertex. I had to do a lot of weird shit to get Vertex working the way it's supposed to, but not with Gemini, not with AI Studio. You just import the Google provider from AI SDK/Google, call it, you're done. It's kind of funny that Vercel is solving Google's DX problem as well as they are. They tried to solve the Vertex one. Problem with Vertex is you can't just give it environment variables. It specifically needs a client credentials and a private key. It ideally will get it in the format of a JSON file that will automatically be updated by Google's weird authentication bullshit. It's like IAM, but 10 times worse and no docs that actually explain how it works. When I say I had to spend a day getting it to auth, I'm not joking. There's a reason I've been spending so much time with the Google startups guys recently because they're as horrified as I am. It shouldn't be like this. But as long as you ignore Vertex as much as you possibly can and just go for the standard Google generative AI, which is Google's AI Studio, you'll be fine. God, if this was an open model, it would have broken the whole world. But honestly, if you don't have their crazy Trillium, whatever, it probably wouldn't have run well anyways. This actually seems really, really cool. And I'm curious what you guys think. Go give it a shot on T3 Chat. It's available for free. Just click the little button in the corner. You can use Flash, and if you want to see the super fast flashlight model, it's hidden there under the experimental models. You'll get a ton of messages if you're signed in. If you want even more, only $8 a month. I think that's all I got on this one. I still can't believe Google caught up as fast as they did, and I'm excited to see how this makes other things advance. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the result of this is going to be OpenAI and Anthropic lowering their prices and AI technologies becoming more accessible to everyone. When these other companies are charging 10 to 100 times more than the numbers Google just posted, it's time for some real change. I never thought Google would be the one to make it happen, but it seems more and more like they're going to. Let me know what you guys think, and until next time, peace nerds.